Okay, it looks like we are live. And I'm going to transition and then I'm going to get out your hair, okay?
Okay, Twitch dot.
All right, and welcome everybody.
Uh,
Everybody, that
ah,
my name is hi. That you know that this is our other than our Thursday night game that we are going to do another team bonus action interview of just one of our players slash GMs, and then that Hoodoo and then that Hoodoo I have with me today.
hey, I'm Emily, also known as Frey on TBA.
All right, and hey
Hey,
and then that
Spence.
or else Frey. Then that's pretty good. Then we just have just a few questions that's just going to probably just only take about 50 minutes to just about an hour. So then that basically everyone can get to know you.
Mhm.
But but that first of all, we are going to start off with what had got you interested in that the tabletop role playing community, and then also please tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I think I am probably one of the only members that's not originally from this section of the country.
Mm-hmm.
I'm originally from Indiana, so Midwestern. I grew up there in South Bend, which is home of the Fighting Irish, and I didn't really play tabletop games when I was growing up. I had friends that I know played. A good friend of mine from high school, Matt, I know he played, but the groups of the in the place where I went kind of fell into that we're an established group and it was mostly dudes and they I'm pretty sure they were playing second edition. So I didn't feel like it was something I could jump into. Actually, when I started playing, we started playing was not actually D&D. We actually started with uh White Wolf's Exalted series.
Oh
And
wow.
uh and I believe that was second edition. I think the third edition is what's out now. But we got into playing that and we had several games we ran, but we had a couple campaigns that lasted a few years. And that's kind of where my dice goblin tendency started because the thing about Exalted is you don't use a whole polyhedral set. You use nothing but D10s. That's it. D10s. That's it. So we started collecting D10s. And we still have a giant jar from back when we used to play, but we used to play that with Greyflower, Topher, and Nathan. They were usually the ones that played that with us and some other friends at the time. So that's where I kind of started. I remember way back when I first moved here, we played like one session of a D&D game. I think it was 3.5 if I remember right. And I played a ranger. And all I remember is that my it was during the heyday of Twilight, so my preferred enemies were sparkly vampires. And then we just kind of started. Hugh had actually started watching Critical Role or listening to it because of Knox, and then he kind of started getting me into it. And I was never opposed to playing D&D. It's just not something we had done. So then we started kind of playing into it, and then he bought a book. Then he bought another book. Then he started making things. I was like, oh, he's making stuff. We're in it now.
Yeah, that's how it normally goes. That
And
once
here we
whenever
are.
you start making stuff, you are just in it to win it.
Once he started getting into the minis and especially the terrain, I was like, oh, yep, this is the long haul here. Because we were doing steampunk before that. And
Oh wow.
yeah, that's actually how we met most of the core members. That's how we met Knox
Nice.
and LeBlanc and a lot of people. So that's what we started with. We've always been doing nerdy shit.
Right. I mean, that nerd culture is always just prevalent just amongst everybody. All right, and that the next question is that if you have created a homebrew world, could you briefly describe your world for us?
Um, in terms of D&D, not much. I have created my own worlds because at the core, I like to write. So I've definitely created worlds that I could probably incorporate in D&D at some point. But um, I mean, I made Critter Showdown. It's not D&D, but I created that whole thing and that whole little setting. The Wild West anthropomorphic animals trying to get stop the big bad cat gang. Um, and Glitter Hearts, I kind of made a little bit of a homebrew with that, just because it was the real world, but it wasn't, and it was one of those made up places. But it was really pretty, just grounded in shoujo manga and stuff like that and tropes.
Oh yeah, I
um,
mean, then listening to it, I had definitely got those vibes of like Magical Girl, kind of sort of similar to like a Monster of the Week esque, but like the anime
hmm
version of it.
Similar. It's I think it's powered by the Apocalypse system used for that. Um, but I can't remember. I have to go back and look. But it's very simple in its basis, but you can do a lot with it. That's why I had fun with it. Um, but I have some ideas for some D&D stuff. Like I think I mentioned the other night, I have kind of a research Pokemon inspired setting that I'm kind of toying with right now. Hoping maybe later in the year I could run a one shot with it or something if I can kind of get it together. Um, but I'm usually a player. I'm not usually a DM, so
I
most of
mean,
my,
it's all good.
but yeah, most of my other things are in other stories that aren't D&D related that I have not done anything with.
It is all good. I mean, then that as just a writer myself, that it's just basically you have all of these ideas, and then it's just like you translate them to either short stories or else to your tabletop games.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It
All right, then. So next question is, what is your role in Team Bonus Action?
well, I am, like I said, I am mostly I'm just a player. I'm not really a DM, but my main role since we really started doing the charity stuff and trying to get us out there a little more is I mostly run our social media at the moment. I am old and still don't understand everything, the nuances of it, or how to beat algorithms or anything like that. But I run our Twitter and our Facebook page, and Hewitt usually handles the YouTube just because he's the one that edits all the videos, so he uploads that. But I try and get us out there. I try and connect us. I'm still kind of learning the ins and outs. Uh, I swore I'd never get a Twitter account, and then I made the TBA account, and then I realized I really shouldn't probably put my opinions on stuff, so I made my own account. But yeah, I'm mostly a social media matron is what I dub myself, and I'm just kind of team mom.
Right, right. I can definitely understand that. And then as a follow-up question to that, as part of those that have founded our team during that dreadful first 24-hour live stream event, do you ever see Team Bonus Action growing into something larger? In what ways do you wish to improve your role or the team as a whole?
I'd like us to. I mean, I don't expect us to be Critical Role or Dimension 20 or, you know, my brother and me or anything like that, but I'd like us to get out there, if only because we can do more good that way. I mean, our main thing is we don't make any money doing this. You know that. Anybody watching at this point probably knows we don't make any money doing this. Um, we all have, jobs in adulting outside of this, but our main thing is raising money and for charity streams. So, if nothing else, I'd like to try and get our name out there, if only so that we can do more good with a larger audience. And it'd be nice if it's something we could do as a living. I mean, that's pretty much every nerd's dream, isn't it? Do nerdy crap on the internet and get paid for it. But
I
um,
agree.
I I'm not under no delusions that that's ever going to happen, but it'd be cool if it did. And I'm just trying to kind of learn along the way how I can get us out there, get us viewers, and I'd love for us to collaborate with a bigger group maybe one day, you know, or develop, relationships with some other groups, connect out there. So that's what I'm trying to figure out how to do.
That is understandable. I mean, then that that definitely just the collaboration with just like other bigger groups or else just same just level groups, then that to just basically just try to put our name out there as a whole and
Hmm.
such. Okay, so I am going to change up this question a little bit, but how would you describe your game mastering and or player style whenever that you are at the table?
Um, I mean, at the core of it, I just want it to be fun. Whatever setting, whatever game, whatever character I'm doing. I know that it depends on the game how I approach my characters. Many times I have a very basic, okay, they're this race, this class. I kind of know where I want their personality to be, but I'm going to let the game and how it flows kind of influence that. And then there's times like with Holy Winds, I went in with Arvex, my Vengeance Paladin, with a very clear backstory, which I really rarely do, other than I think the only other character that I really have made a really comprehensive backstory is Arlana from uh, Lost Seas. But Arvex, I went with a very clear backstory and what her motivations were and what I wanted her to do and what she was going out to accomplish. And part of that is because of Hewitt, Miro, because if you don't come up with something about your background, you can be dang sure he's going to fill in the blanks himself. And when he says it, then it's canon. So part of it was I didn't want to put any cracks in there. Not that he would try and mess up my character, my backstory, but sometimes he has to fill in blanks, and I didn't want him to have any to fill in that could potentially, swerve what I was trying to do. So that's not super typical for me to do, but we had a lot of time to prepare for Holy Winds. Uh, I worked on Arvax a lot, and we had probably a couple months before we played that we were working on characters and getting things ready. So, but a lot of times, like I was telling Michaela the other night when she was over, um, I have a lot of character ideas that I never write down or do actually make a character sheet for. Sometimes I do, like my character Mal or Malkovec, but he couldn't say his name, so he went by Mal. He was a bugbear rogue, the one that I played at the game shop, and I just thought making a bugbear rogue was funny. I really had no plan for him, and then we started playing in John's game at the game shop, and Hewitt was playing his Tortle Death Cleric, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna use this character. I already made it just because I wanted to see how it panned out, and he ended up being such a fun character to play. It was it was basically like Big Ed from Ed, Ed and Eddie if you armed him with a rapier. He wasn't smart. I played up his dumb a little bit. 'Cause
Oh
he started with a -1 in int, I think, and eventually it did get changed because of the intellect devour in the head. But I kept playing the kind of, you know, oh, I'm just you said the door's not open. Can I kick it? Has anybody kicked it yet? And then he'd headbutt the door, and then take door damage. But
God.
he'd
Door
like
damage.
have these random moments of wisdom because his wisdom was average, but he just wasn't very smart. And his signature crit was actually by accident because what I was trying to tell John I was doing was I was stabbing this enemy with the rapier that he carried because of course the bugbear had a rapier. And I meant that he was going to go up like this and kind of like do a bifurcating thing.
Mm-hmm.
John took that as is that I stabbed him with the rapier and bodily flung him over my shoulder on a crit. And then someone else did something similar several games later, and he looked at he goes, you just got mauled. But characters like that, and then at our at-home game, I have Nasra, my sorcerer. I knew going in she was a noble. She was Asmar sorcerer. She was a little fancy, but I didn't want her to be a brat. And that's about all I went in with. I very rarely actually fill out that part of the character sheet that's, their, the motivation and stuff like that. I very rarely, unless I'm told I have to, I very rarely fill that out before we start playing a game. A lot of times I don't ever fill it out just because I kind of like that flowing organically of what my character's going to do and how they're going to change as I play them. So I try and kind of go with the flow with my characters because I hate that's what my character would do. You don't know what your character would do. You can't think of every scenario before you start a game. So most of the time, if people use that, they were just planning on being a douchebag in the first place. And sometimes
That is true.
sometimes it is a legitimate. This is what my character do. I've done it with Arvax.
Hmm.
In out of character, I knew that another party member was attacking in secret this dragon horse thing we had with us that was kind of evil and had pissed it off. But in character, I didn't know. Arvax had no idea what was attacking the horse. So, she's sending attacks into a bush in the general direction and eventually did hold person and found out it was our party member. And I think he was kind of mad. I'm like, I know. All Arvax sees is a party member getting attacked by something she can't see. So what's she gonna do? She's gonna stop it. So I try and
Right,
stay true
right.
to my character without being a dick about it.
Right, exactly. I mean, that is what all us players and also game masters should wish for. Our players not to always metagame, because sometimes metagaming just ruins the experience sometimes.
Yeah.
But you do have funny moments.
Yeah, I try not to meta. And sometimes it's really
It's
hard
all good.
it's hard when your husband's the DM 90% of the time. Because he'll be like, came up with this diabolical shit. And I'm like, I see it coming and I can't say anything.
Exactly. I mean, oh god. But yeah, so anyway, just how like that I am gonna have to edit up this next question is that you had mentioned that you had created two games of your own, and then that basically has that led you to dabble into creating that your own races, classes, subclasses, and then etc. Especially for Glitter Hearts and the Critter Showdown games. If that you would, could you go up into a little bit more detail about each of those?
um, well, in terms of creating new races and classes and such, I haven't done that very much. I come up with random ideas for D&D characters and settings and stuff like that. Um, like I the main reason I want the Strixhaven book is so I can make an owlin because I want an owl person, and he will be named Owlowiscious Pigwidgeon. And if I decide to make him a necromancer, he will end up coughing up what he brings back to life. And I said, don't tell Knox because he'll steal my idea.
Oh man, that'd be a good one. Mm.
So we'll see if that ever gets to pop up. But with Critter Showdown, I love that all of my playtesting has been literally us playing it on TBA. The reason I came up with it was because originally it was 3 years ago. I think it was 3 or 4 years ago. I wanted to make Hewitt a game for his birthday because he's always a DM, and I wanted to run a game for him. And at first, I was going to do D&D, but part of like I've like I said when we did roundtable the other night, I'm bad at the math, and I realized that there was a whole lot of math involved. And my other problem was the main person I go to ask questions about D&D is Hewitt.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't go and keep asking D&D questions and him not be like, "What the hell are you doing?" So he knew I was doing something, but I was like, "Okay, I need to simplify this simply for myself because I can't if I do it with D&D, I have to make the characters and give them to people. And not everybody likes that. I know some people don't like pre-made characters, but I was like, well, if I just if I make it simple, and we had been playing, Honey Heist, and we had played, what's the other one? Crash Pandas.
Crash Pandas.
Yeah, some of the Grant Howlett games, those really easy ones that are all D6s. I thought, well, if I can make something simple like that, then it would probably ease it up a little bit. And if I tried to restrict myself, at least in the uh, players' rules. In my GM guide that I made for myself, it's probably 2-3 pages long. But I wanted to try and restrict myself to make it 1 or 2 pages for the players because I wanted to make it simple. Because if my brain will do one thing, it's overcomplicate, especially when it comes to doing things like this. Because I am very much a very involved description person. If you ever were to read what I write, I make long descriptions. So, so I took my idea that it was going to be a D&D game and I parsed it down to something really small. And I realized, well, this is so much easier. And then I just had to throw a bunch of idiots in and it was fun. So, playing it for Extra Life this last year was the third play that we've had of it. And the rules have changed just in those 3 times. So every time I fix it a little more, I tweak it a little more. You know, something dumber happens every time, and every time Hewitt shits in the street. So, and with the glitter hearts, I mean, I didn't make that system obviously, but I wanted it to go. I'm such a big Sailor Moon dork. I've loved Sailor Moon since I was 11, 12, ever since it first appeared on US TV, and I didn't want it to be a direct copy. I didn't want a parody. I wanted more of a love letter because I've liked other, Maho Shoujo anime before. I was a little old for Card Captors or Card Captor Sakura, excuse me. I never really got into Precure or anything like that, but I always loved the magical girl setting. So I wanted it to be approachable, I guess, because I knew not everybody playing had been into Sailor Moon or had watched this kind of anime or were into this kind of anime. So I wanted it to be to where if we only played it once, they could get through the story that I wanted to tell, which is hard for me. It's hard for all of us. I hardly ever can do a one shot. You know that.
Yeah.
Like, this has to be a one shot. This is for my birthday game. It has to be a one shot. So I think they kind of knew where the story was going, and that on the one hand, I kind of wanted it to be that way because if you watch enough anime, you know what's gonna happen. You know who's gonna be the bad guy. You know who's gonna die. Well, it's easy for me to know who's gonna die because it's always the character Hewitt likes. Um, but if someone's a big enemy, especially in that kind of anime, there's a good chance they're gonna be a frenemy to an ally later, or there's some background there to where they didn't used to be. And at the very end, it was revealed that the enemy generals were once warriors like them, but they were corrupted, and that's where we ended it. So we could go back to it later, but that was supposed to be the big reveal at the end. And I remember Christina was like, "Oh my god, I knew it!" But oh my god, and I was like, "That's the reaction I wanted."
Hmm.
So I got the reaction I wanted out of that, and it's I'm definitely not against DMing more than I do, but I really do love being a player, and I don't have to keep up with so many numbers that way either.
Yeah, that math is hard, and then that
Ugh.
basically, from what I had heard of, that the glitter hearts, that I had enjoyed every just bit of it. As someone as a bit of a, I am kind of getting back into Sailor Moon from like the podcast Sailor Noob, which is basically a re-listen podcast of
Hmm.
all of the Sailor Moon episodes,
I've heard that
and
one
then that.
mentioned before. I haven't listened to it, but I have a Sailor Moon page I follow on Facebook. People have mentioned that one before.
Yeah, and then that play, and then that for my first time playing Critter Showdown, I think that that the way that you have basically like created that is just so simple for like that any other like mainstay DMs to somewhat run this as well, because at the planning stage of that it's so stressful,
Oh my gosh.
because that because of the fact that as some people that like to RP a lot, you don't got a lot of time to RP,
Hmm.
because you only got like what is it like about 90 minutes in real time before you get
It's
started.
it's 12 rounds of 5
Oh, it is an
minutes.
hour. It's an hour. Math
Yeah,
is hard.
yeah, trust me. I'm never going to criticize someone for their math skills. Yeah, it's 12 rounds of 5 minutes each is what it is. So,
So yeah, then I think then that that that'd be a very unique, interesting thing to kind of show up more for just basically just some easy, just some more content and stuff.
yeah, I
So
wanted it to be like I said, I wanted it to be approachable
it
because
is.
one and I love D&D and 5e is really easy to get started on. I remember with a one game of 3.5, I was like, "Oh god, I don't want to do this again." But 5e is so streamlined. And once you know the basics, it's very easy to figure out, okay, I need to do this and this and this. And but even then, we've been playing for how many years? I still need to go, can I still do this thing or how do I calculate this? But I
Hmm.
didn't want people to have to calculate a bunch of stats and I wanted it to be something you could pick up and it'd be easy and something that could, maybe get people interested in a larger setting or a larger game. Like you said, it doesn't leave as much room for RP because you have to figure out what you're doing. You have to be really quick about it. But at the same time, we have had some of the best moments ever in these games.
I agree.
Not Knox is that is why he was allowed to play the same character that he's played in the past because oh my god, he just knocks it out of the park every time with that. And he and Hewitt play off each other so well. It's always just cracks me up. But eventually I'd like to get it to where it is refined enough that I could put it out there for other people, either if we were to start a Patreon or just put it out there, you know, if people are willing to want to play it, provide them with that PDF so they can learn to play it too. I'd love for more people to play it. And it's not quite there yet because I always find something new to tweak, but um it's gaming can be intimidating, and I don't say that just as a woman who came into this hobby that has been you know generally male dominated for however many years, but just as a new person coming into anything, especially when it comes to being a nerd, the amount of social anxiety that tends to come with that makes things hard and it's intimidating to approach something new. So I wanted it to be to where, oh, well, this is easy. And then I can look at this other thing. Okay, maybe that's not so hard. And that can lead them into something even bigger.
Right, right. Very good answer. Very good answer. Now, then, that next question is, what are the inspirations for the games and content you create, and could you elaborate on that your research process whenever creating a game?
Um, I kind of covered that a lot already, but obviously Glitter Hearts was you know, magical girl,
Right.
anime. A lot of the things I make are have some kind of basis somewhere in anime, whether it be a trope or a character or just a genre. Um, or, video games. I'm a huge dork about stuff. So I don't think I know anybody who doesn't draw oh, excuse me. Who doesn't draw some inspiration from, you know, nerdy stuff that's already there. I don't know nobody copies, but that's how inspiration works though. I mean, nothing is 100%, you know, and I don't want this to come off the wrong way that people aren't original. Nothing is 100% original in the sense that we all are inspired or influenced by something, whether we realize it or not. Um, and I think that's fine. That's good because that's how we come up with new things. Um, so I like to start to think about something I enjoy already and try and base something off of that in its very bones and then build off of it. So yeah, that's pretty much where I am with that.
Right. Right. And I 100% agree. I mean, that all of the art YouTubers say just steal as much as you can, meaning to get inspired by like other creators and stuff. Like that, that I can plug this idea like that our other DM Nasa that she had like literally stole my idea of mana potions to use because up in D&D 5e that you don't have a necessary good resource to like restore spell slots,
I don't
especially
know how
whenever.
that's not a thing already either. I mean, I'm sure plenty of
I
people come up with something similar to fix that, but I can't believe it's not actually a
I still
thing.
can't believe it, and then I'm just like, wait, how do you have the red potion but you don't got the blue potion?
Right.
This makes no sense.
Yeah, but that's the good thing about D&D is you can fix it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Alrighty then. That this one is going to be kind of like a more open-ended one.
Mhm.
With the growing popularity that Dungeons and Dragons have generated in mainstream and is viewed as cool now, not to discount the critical success of those professional D&D web shows that have paved the way for the smaller groups in the tabletop role-playing gaming community, how do you feel that these spikes in popularity have either helped or harmed the hobby?
Well, I know I mean, you're on Twitter, so I know you see a lot of the same stuff I do. I know there's a lot of people who say that it hurts in the end, but I don't agree with that. And again, like you mentioned, it's not just because I like Critical Role. It's not just because
Hmm.
I like these other pages and um I give Critical Role a lot of credit for it getting the popularity it has in recent years. They're not the only ones, obviously, but there's about to the 28th. There's about to be an animated series on Amazon Prime based off their D&D game. That's amazing. I mean, there was a D&D cartoon in the 80s and it was god awful and it was campy as heck, but
Hmm.
this isn't just, oh, this could be inspired by this D&D stuff. This was a D&D game that is now a cartoon. And I think that's incredible and I think it's cool. And I can only hope we could do something that amazing one day. But my thing is, if you'd asked me when I was a kid, and if I was into D&D then, shoot, let me use Sailor Moon. Sailor Moon was never as popular, can be credited with bringing a lot of anime over and making it popular, but it never got the clout that like Dragon Ball Z had in the US at the
Hmm.
at the time. Um and when I was a kid I was like, "Oh, I like this cool thing. Not a lot of people like it." This not that I thought I actually made me special, but I'm like, I know this kind of niche thing. and only my best friend and I are really into it. And this is really cool. And then you find, more niche people on the internet that also like the same thing. And as a kid, if it had suddenly exploded more and we'd gotten a really bad, live action series and other stuff at the time it probably would have made me like, well, this was my thing first, you know. And I feel this way about a lot of things now. I think it has come with age. Not that I say that like I'm really old. I'm only in my 30s, but I think it comes with age and maturity and just watching other people and how they react to things, because I guess it goes back to people used to make fun of the hipster mindset. Oh, well, I liked it before it was cool. Well, I liked Naruto before it was cool, and Naruto's kind of lame to me now. So, whatever.
Right.
But if something I like gets popular, I don't see the reason to get mad about it, because the more popular something is, the more money it's going to make a company. The more money it's going to make the people who can make more of it. And the more people that see it are going to get into it and they're going to like it. Like, we got my brothers playing D&D, you know? And I always think, the more the merrier when it comes to the good sides of fandom, because we all know what can happen to fandom and the worst sides of it. Rick and Morty. Um,
Oh, yeah.
um, I mean, shoot, I was on DeviantArt in the early 00s. I've seen some stuff, but you know, uh, there's always going to be the, oh, it's corporate now, or now it's expensive, and that can happen. But at the same time, it doesn't have to change the way you feel about it. So many people lately have been like, oh, they're trying to change old D&D, they're trying to get rid of it, they're trying to say it was bad. It's like, yes and no, because some ideas back when Gygax, and his crew made it, are really not cool now, and there's nothing wrong with admitting that, but still wanting to play it. That's, with they put up the disclaimer, some of these second edition books have some stuff in here that we don't agree with anymore, but at the time, it's kind of like how Disney Plus will put up on certain movies and TV shows that this was viewed as okay at the time. We know it's not now, but this is in here if it is sensitive to you. They're not getting rid of it. They're not saying you can't buy these adventures, you can't buy these D&D, this D&D stuff. It's still there. It might not be as popular now. And a lot of people, and I don't think people should say to the ones who want to play it, you're wrong. You shouldn't do it. Because I don't think we need to push each other out of the fandom from one side or the other. If you want to play old school meat grinder, you know, first, second, third, fourth, whatever, cool. If you find a group of people that don't want to play it that way, just keep looking, and if they're too woke, then their game's woke, and game's not for you. And if you want the more woke game, I hate using that word, but you know what I mean. The more new school of stuff, like I've come across people on, different groups that basically don't even want an antagonist in their games. They basically just want an RP. Now, I'm not into that. I like to have conflict because I don't really see the point with no conflict. I think that tropes and stereotypes should be turned on their head, like how orcs in Arax work in Hewitt's world. Um, and I don't see a problem with them saying, hey, you can have a beholder that's not evil. The Mind Flayer thing, that's a little iffy. I don't know how you can work that out, but
Right.
that one out. Some people did make some good points. It's like they literally need to eat brains. But you can get around that too, because you could have them, they have basically a community where all these people who are terminally ill come and this is their choice to do it, It's a little dark, it's a little weird, but, it can work. So
Right.
everybody should have fun. I want everybody to have fun. whether it's popular, because it's never gonna stay this popular forever. It's not. That's just how trends work. In when we're all in our 60s, we're all gonna probably see it explode again for one reason or another. And we're gonna be like watching YouTube on VR helmets saying, "Oh, we used to do that. You don't know how to do it right." But our group wouldn't do that, but it's like eighth edition. What the hell's eighth edition? and I hope they get to an eighth edition. I hope D&D never dies. Even if it changes to something unrecognizable to what I play now, I can still go back and play 5th edition if I want. Got all the books
Hmm.
for it.
Oh yeah.
So,
Yeah, then you had said something about like a good like mind flayer, and then I am just like, wait a minute, that you can have this mind flayer is basically being like the executioner for like prisoners on just like death row,
right.
and then he just sucks out their brains, and then it can basically be like a Kuro Sensei from like Assassination Classroom style character. I think then that'd be very good,
It's
good to run.
and see, that just goes back to it's D&D and you can do whatever you want. And I got in an argument with someone one time on a Facebook page that I don't remember what they brought up. It was something about how certain classes or certain races are always evil and something like, well, that's the beauty of D&D. You can change it. They're like, there's what's the beauty of a system that'll makes slavery or evil like such a concrete thing. I'm like, but it's not. It's not. That's the point. D&D gives you a basis, but it's a role playing game. You can make it whatever you want. We have broken so many rules playing D&D, and yet we're still playing D&D.
Yeah. And then I think then that's just the beauty of it. Like I think that the ones that basically don't do the rules as written adventure league style games, then that is why that these shows have expanded, because that, let's just be honest, that nobody wants to basically go through like like somebody playing Sunless Citadel for like the 60th time, because it's like
Right.
we know what's going to happen. Like people always try to make Meepo that this weak and just like innocent thing. Up in just my version of it, Meepo has a very deep voice
Oh, and
or
ours,
something.
Meeple's a swobold. He's
Right.
swole.
So yeah, that you necessarily don't have to follow rules as written all the time. Alrighty then. So that these next few questions are going to kind of be a little bit of like rapid fire
Yeah,
ones. So basically, what are some long term goals for team bonus action that you would like to see accomplished?
I would like us to get to where we have an audience, a regular audience. I'm not sure how to accomplish that quite yet, but I'm not saying 9 million people watch us every Thursday night. But when we go live, I'd like us to have at least a small group that is like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go watch them. They're live, and it seems like we're always watching ourselves, which is fine. Again, we're not doing this to be famous or anything, but I think my main goal of this year, especially, is to try and get us out there more, just just to try and get a little attention on our group, if nothing else, because I'd like to make it to where we're, you know, earning a whole lot more during Extra Life, because that's our big thing every year. I mean, we did amazing this year, and thanks to LeBlanc, it's getting doubled by CVS. So I'd like to get it to where we earn 5,000 in a weekend. Not this year, obviously, but at some point, I'd like us to get 5,000 plus a weekend to donate to Batson's in Mississippi.
Oh yeah. I mean, then that that's one thing that I have been trying to basically do myself, is basically assist with that, like reaching out to some of these
Hmm.
like leveled groups and stuff, and just saying like, hey,
Yep.
that that I could be available for like interviewing for team bonus action or
Yep.
something
I,
like
s-
that,
I
just to
see you. I
basically.
see you on there.
I try.
You're trying to hustle for us.
Yeah,
I'm not always
I
sure how to approach about it, which I'm trying to learn. So,
I mean that that the best way that I can always say, because then that my supervisor had told me this, and then he says that I am very brave at times. basically meaning that if that there is a room of like 300 people, and then that I am the only one to raise up to just raise up my hand, and then to ask a question, that that the higher ups will just remember that one person versus just everybody just sitting still.
And see, I'm not. I have around our friends, I'm fine, but I have so many social anxieties if I'm around people I don't know, if I'm trying to interact with new people, which I feel like I've come out of that a little bit as I get older and as I try and do stuff for, our group. But I am not brave when it comes to social situations, and I never have been.
Well, I mean that I feel so self-conscious all the time about my stuttering, and that I'm just like, is my stuttering ruining the game for people? Is it
Mm-mm.
like being misunderstood all the time? That's all what I have going on all the time.
No, and it doesn't though, because you draw people in with the story. It's nothing more than a pause, for a few seconds. That's it. It's nothing distracting or anything.
Okay, then that's good to know. All right, and next
Oop.
question is favorite character that you have played of all time. Now that um this character can be from any game you have been in.
So not necessarily a stream game yet.
Not a string game, it can be any game.
Okay, because if it's stream game, it's Arlana from Lost Seas. My Wood Elf Ranger. She is my favorite of this, but my favorite overall, if it had been a few years ago, I would have said Tsukiko, who was my exalted character. But I'd probably have to say that my favorite character, which actually she's been in the stream because it's Sybil. Um, but what the stream has seen of Sybil is such a small little dot of her because we've been playing our other game because the stream has seen Sybil in Monster of the Week. Sybil is from our Dresden Files Fate game that we just started playing with me and Kiaretha, Christina, and Emily Erie, who has she ran Lady Blackbird for us one time, and we just started playing this game. God, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, almost. We actually started playing with our friend Tim too. It originally started with all steampunk people because Topher started it too, and I made this white council wizard who is supposed to be a diplomat, and she has been one of my favorite characters to play because she has fallen into a bit of what happens with a lot of my characters is she is the voice of reason. She is uh she's kind of headstrong, but she falls into the oh my god, you're all idiots. And I need to take care of this mode. She goes into mom mode a little bit, but it, trying not to go in a whole bunch of Dresden Files stuff because Dresden Files is its own monster. She came in basically having grown up in this very restricted, um, structured world within, the magical world. And she kind of got thrown in New Orleans with these other two chaos muffins, especially Jeannie, the other Emily's character. And she's over the course of, let's see, we played the first game, we played Kyoto, played Mardi Gras. I think we're on our seventh campaign, if you can call it that. We, it's kind of like we kind of divide them into books, and she's kind of loosened up, and she's gotten to where I wanted her to. She's one of these characters that kind of evolved on her own because I wanted her to start off as a very cool-headed, collected, kind of restricted character, and she kind of was at the beginning. And now she's kind of a hothead, and she don't take no shit from nobody. And if somebody's gonna get hurt, she's gonna get hurt first, so someone else doesn't have to get hurt. She's the kind of person that literally flings herself into danger to stop the danger. And a lot of what makes her great to me is in my head of her motivations and what her thoughts are. And she's just been really fun to play, and she's so fun to interact with Christina and Emily. And we're really hoping to bring it to the stream eventually. But Emily had a baby, so that kind of got pushed back. But it's such a fun
Um,
thing, and it's to where eventually I'd like to take, because I've been recording since about our fourth campaign. I don't put it anywhere. I just keep it on my computer. But as notes, I record us. And I can't make it Dresden Files because Jim Butcher would sue my butt to Mars and back. But I would like to be like, hey Jim, you want a spin-off series? Because I got an idea for you. Um, but I have it to where, and we've done so many crazy things to where it kind of breaks the rules of the actual Dresden Files canon that I want to make it its own thing eventually. I'd love for it to be its own book series. And I sent my toy with, and I've written stuff for. But I'm trying to make it its own thing to where I'm not gonna be like, no, it's definitely not Jim Butcher's work. It's definitely mine. So, but yeah, Sybil Benoit is probably at the top of my favorite characters that I've played.
as someone that who basically was Sybil Benoit's pain in that the neck apprentice, if you want to call her that, and just basically that playing just that just at the foil to Sybil, and it's that because that Desiree now Rose basically is the screw up, is that the screw up magical person because it's been a lot of screw ups that has been happening.
I don't
I
think
mean
that
that
she could beat out Jeannie, Emily's character, in Screw Ups. I really don't. Because she's
uh,
considered a warlock and has the Doom of Damocles over her right now. So,
But yeah, I mean that it's just that the nature of it. I mean, then that that I just think that that has been one of my most favorite characters that I have seen you play as so far. All right, and
yeah.
all right, and that these that now that we only got about three more questions left.
Okay.
So, how do you view yourself with the hobby within the next 5 years?
Oh. I mean, if nothing else, I figure we're still going to be playing in 5 years, whether it's on Twitch or just at home. I'd like to DM a little more. You know, I don't really want to DM um modules. If I DM something, I want it to be something I made up. Because Hewitt can take a module and modify it and turn it into an entirely different campaign, which is what he's done with our Tuesday night at home game that we have been playing. Because we started as Sun the Citadel, and now we're we had our own thing in the middle, and now we're kind of going into Avernus. Um, but I would like, just within the hobby, just push what I can come up with, even if it's just character wise. I had an idea for a character last night, and I'm like, I really want to be able to use this in something. And I'm realizing with some of the ideas I have, it's going to come down to, if I want to use this character, I have to make something to use it in. So I guess I'm coming up with NPCs for something in the future.
All right, that's going to be something to be looking forward to. Okay then. Now number 13 is 13 question. That the next question is, what would be a dream collab you will like to guess or be a part of from the more famous tabletop RPG communities?
Oh my god. Um, I'm just gonna be basic and just I would, if we could do something with Critical Role, I think I would literally pass out.
I think that all of us would just pass out. I mean that
I mean,
that y'all had said like earlier off of a stream conversation that that y'all had actually got to meet Laura Bailey.
we've met Laura and we have met Travis. Um, just at cons, they wouldn't know. Well, Travis might remember Hugh. That's a whole nother story. Um, we've met them just at cons. It was like mostly the heyday of Fullmetal Alchemist. if you go to, I have a YouTube page. It's Hacker Frey. I'm pretty sure I still have videos there of when we went to see them at Anime Central in 2008. Um, I'm pretty sure I have videos from that panel for Fullmetal Alchemist back then. And, you know, we didn't spend any time getting them one on one, but just from meeting them at conventions, they are exactly how you see them. They're such sweet people. And I know I've met Liam at a con before. I don't think I've ever met Matt. I can't remember. I think Sam might have been at a con we went to once. But, when Hewitt started listening to Critical Role, I just knew there were voice actors in it. I didn't realize that Travis and Laura were in it. And it wasn't until he was listening, he was listening to the podcast, and I kind of looked at it and went, was that Laura Bailey? He goes, yeah, her and Travis are in it. I was like, why didn't you tell me this? It's like, I don't know. I thought I did. Well, you didn't, because they're two of my favorites ever. So, I posted this on Discord. I've literally had stupid dreams where we've been doing stuff with Critical Role before. And one of the dreams I did have would be the most amazing thing to happen ever, that it was basically a battle royale kind of thing, and it was in the dream. I know we were there because I'm pretty sure we organized it within the context of this dream, and it was Critical Role and what's my brother and me, Adventure Zone, and there was Acquisitions Incorporated, and I think there was somebody else, and we were on the stage, and this wheel spun, and it was pairing the groups together, and their teams had to battle it out until, there was there's two teams left, and they battled out, and that was how it got explained in the dream. And I think that would be the coolest thing after COVID is not a problem, even if it's not with those groups, because God, how could you get all them together when you're tiny like us? But even if we're other D&D groups doing something like that, I think it would be the coolest thing if we could make that happen one day. But yeah, if I could collab with anybody, it would be Critical Role.
Wow. Yeah, then that'd be just one of the most highlights of just our
Of my
tiny
life.
tabletop group. Right.
If we could
Exactly.
if we could get Adventure Zone too, they're pretty cool. Hewitt thinks Travis is really funny, so.
Yeah. Yeah, all right, and then that that the last question is that if that you had the ability to improve team bonus action in any method, how would you make those changes?
I mean, I don't want to change how we play anything because I don't want us to change our structure, you know. So mechanics wise, I don't want us to change, not mechanics wise, but appearance, personality, our vibe wise. I
Right.
wouldn't change our vibe for anything. We're just a bunch of idiots playing D&D. We're smart idiots, but we're just a bunch of dorks, and that's the best kind of people. So I think mechanically, I mentioned this the other night, is that I would like us just to have more consistency, I guess. Like, again, we're all adults with adult lives, so things are going to get put on hiatus, things are going to get pushed back, things are going to get canceled at the last minute. And but I think one of the things that would gain us more views is to be as consistent as we can. And I'm not sure how to do that yet. Because I don't want to make anybody feel bad that they can't play or that they have to drop out or they can't do anything, because it's life. So we can't ask anybody to make this a priority, when everyone's got jobs and kids and, just shit to do. So I haven't quite figured out how we can improve on that yet, but we're going to work on it. We're going to work on it,
Right.
people.
I mean, yeah, then that I know then that I try my best to basically try to schedule everything and clear off any type of scheduling conflict that I have and such, so then that that I can attempt to try to at least be part of at least everything that we have put together and stuff. But yeah, then that that that's something that we just have to just work out. I would say behind the screen in a
Hmm.
sense. But then I do believe that we are just out of time. So that like any more closing remarks, and then I just want to just say that that thank you, Frey, for just basically that this hour long interview. So then that that our audience can get to know you and such.
Well, thank you. And I enjoyed it. It was fun talking about stuff, and especially when there's not six of us all trying to talk over each other.
That is true.
That
So
is,
yeah, so
but I appreciate you doing this so I could, I guess, get my thoughts out there a little bit. It was kind of nice to kind of put some of that into words that I usually just have in my head, and Twitter has a very small amount of words you can put in there. So,
mhm.
but speaking of Twitter, anyone can find us over there at bonus_team. I am on there as at Frey TBA, and we are also on Facebook, and we have all of our videos on YouTube. Of course, we're here on Twitch, and I need to get with Nathan and get the Instagram kind of going.
I
But
think that I think that his Instagram is basically like Nate Paints. I think now.
Nate Paints Minis, I think it is.
Yeah.
I think I always say it wrong. I think it's Nate Paints Minis. So, um,
Right. And
and you are at Ninja Spence.
right. Yeah. Yeah. That you can basically find me on like Instagram, Twitter. Twitch, Ninja Spins 21. That I mainly has shifted towards like doing just art and probably some dumb Super Mario Kaizo levels, but I do a lot of D&D art along with just like Dark Souls and stuff like that. And then that we also will merch and stuff is coming, so just be on the lookout for that.
I was gonna have my
So
mug and I forgot. I got put my ghost soda in something with a
oh,
straw.
that it is fine. Then that we are still getting just things taken away. So then that y'all will be seeing that on that the Twitter hopefully soon. Hopefully soon. But since that that Knox isn't here, what does he always say?
Don't let your meatloaf.
Good night, everybody. Thank you all for watching.
Good night. Thanks.
Good night. Thank you.